It wasn't even my mail day. That's what made it strange. We had a routine in our building, odd-numbered apartments picked up on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, even numbers on the other days. It kept things organized in the chaotic little complex we lived in, where half the mailboxes jammed if you opened them too fast, and the lock on the entry gate was mostly decorative. But I had gone down anyway because I was expecting a shipment of replacement parts for a project I was doing for a buddy's motorcycle. What I wasn't expecting was a nondescript yellow envelope stuck to the back of my mailbox with a strip of black electrical tape, like whoever left it was in a rush or didn't want it seen. I pulled it off and flipped it over. No name, no logo, just one word typed in all caps on the front. Wednesday. That was today. I should have thrown it out. I should have minded my business and assumed it was a mistake. But instead, I cracked it open right there under the flickering hallway light and slid out a hotel keycard, the plastic kind with a magnetic strip and a fading logo of a fancy place downtown, the Renwick, a place way above my income level, where rooms came with private saunas and minibars stocked with labels you couldn't pronounce. Taped to the card was a tiny folded piece of paper, the kind they use for fortune cookies, not regular notes. It simply read, Room 1204. She checks in at 6. No name. No sender. Nothing else. I stood there for a long minute, trying to decide what kind of trouble I was holding in my hand. My brain immediately went to Emily, my wife, because who else would this be about? She had one of those downtown clients, the kind who booked events in overpriced venues for tech conferences and medical awards ceremonies. But this felt intentional. Like someone wanted me to know. Like someone wanted me to walk through that hotel lobby and slide that card into a door I wasn't supposed to open. I felt it in my gut, not fear, but something colder, tighter, a squeezing sensation in my chest that wouldn't go away. When I got back upstairs, Emily was in the kitchen unloading groceries, humming to herself like she didn't have a secret in the world. She looked up when I came in but didn't ask where I'd been. She never asked much these days unless it had to do with bills or why I hadn't taken the recycling out. She had this habit of narrating her actions now, like, I'm putting the chicken in the freezer, or, I bought oat milk this time, not almond. Like she was trying to fill space, so I wouldn't notice how empty the air between us had become. I put the envelope down on the desk and acted normal, or at least my version of it. Sat down, logged into my laptop, stared at the screen without typing anything. My mind was locked on that hotel room. I didn't even know if she'd be there. I didn't know who left the card or why they'd send it to me. But I did know that if I didn't go, I'd never be able to look her in the eyes again without wondering what would have been behind that door. By 5:30, I was in my truck, driving across the river toward the city with that keycard burning a hole in my jacket pocket. I didn't tell her where I was going. I said I had to check something at my friend's shop, some vague excuse she didn't even question. That was part of the problem. She stopped caring where I went a long time ago. The Renwick was glowing by the time I pulled into the underground parking lot. People in tailored coats and heels walked in and out like they had somewhere important to be. I took the elevator up without seeing a single staff member. Room 1204 was at the end of the hallway, quiet and spotless, like nothing ever happened in any of those rooms. I stood there for a minute with the card in my hand, wondering if I was about to destroy my own marriage or save it. The beep of the lock was so soft I almost missed it. The door swung open slowly, and I stepped inside. The room was dim, the curtains drawn, city lights casting long shadows across the bed. And there she was, Emily, my wife of 8 years, wearing a dress I'd never seen before, tight, low-cut, classy in a way she never dressed for me anymore. She was sitting on the edge of the bed, looking at her phone, but it wasn't the phone that stopped me cold. It was the suitcase beside her, not her usual work bag, a full suitcase, like she was planning to stay the night, or leave. She didn't see me at first. I didn't say anything. I just stood there like a statue, watching her smooth her hair, adjust the strap on her shoulder, bite her lip like she was nervous. Then she looked up and saw me. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. She looked like she'd seen a ghost. How long? I asked. That was all I could say. Everything else in my head was pure noise. She didn't answer. Not right away. She looked down at the floor, like it had all the answers. I walked further into the room, picked up the suitcase, unzipped it. Men's clothes. Not mine. Button-downs, cologne, a pair of shoes polished so clean they looked like they belonged to a lawyer. That's when the door behind me opened again. He was younger, clean-cut, nervous. When he saw me, he froze. His face went pale. Who the hell are you? I asked, still holding the suitcase. He didn't speak. Just looked at Emily, waiting for her to do the talking. This isn't what you think, she finally said, standing up, voice trembling. No, I said. Because it looks like you booked a room with another man and packed a bag for him. It's complicated, she said, stepping toward me. Try me. She looked at him again, then back at me. His name is Carter. He's a consultant. We've been working together. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was so stupid. You packed a suitcase for a work meeting? We were going to talk. That's it. I swear. And the room? The outfit? You do this for all your business meetings. She had no answer. Neither did he. I put the suitcase down, looked at them both, then said what had been building in my chest for weeks. You think I'm blind? You think I didn't notice how you've been acting lately? You thought I'd never find out? Or were you just hoping I wouldn't care enough to look? Emily didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just stood there, silent. That told me more than any excuse ever could. I'm not going to yell, I said. I'm not going to punch him. But I am going to walk out of here and never come back the same. Then I left. I didn't take the elevator. I took the stairs, one heavy step at a time. It wasn't just betrayal I felt. It was betrayal confirmed. And I was ready for the next move. After I walked out of that room, I didn't go home. I didn't even go to my truck. I sat in the stairwell 2 floors down, with my back against the concrete wall, trying to put together everything I had just seen. My heart wasn't racing anymore. It had settled into this cold, steady thump like it was waiting for orders. I didn't feel rage, not yet. I felt insulted. Not just because she was there with some other guy, but because she thought I wouldn't figure it out. Like I was just some furniture in her life, not capable of understanding what was happening right in front of me. I pulled out the keycard and stared at it. Whoever left this for me wanted me to know. That part was clear. What I didn't understand was why. And more than that, how long had it been going on? On my way out of the hotel, I stopped by the front desk. I didn't plan it. I didn't even think I'd speak. But there was a guy behind the counter with the kind of fake smile people wear when they've been yelled at by rich guests all day, and I asked him, as politely as I could, if they kept hallway camera footage. He said yes. I told him I lost my wallet and was hoping I could check if someone picked it up from outside the elevators. It was a stupid excuse, but he bought it. He asked for my ID, and I pulled out my license. Then I gave him the room number and waited. He took me to a back office where the monitors showed different camera angles from every floor. He pulled up the feed from the 12th floor and rewound to around 6 o'clock. We sat in silence as the footage played. I didn't expect to see anything useful. Maybe her walking in, maybe nothing at all. But then I saw it. At 6:02 p.m., Emily stepped out of the elevator alone, rolling a suitcase behind her. She was on her phone, smiling. Not a quick smile. The kind of smile you give when you're happy to hear someone's voice. She stopped in front of the room, took out the keycard, and let herself in. 3 minutes later, he showed up. Carter, the consultant. He didn't knock. He didn't hesitate. He used his own card to get in. That's what stuck with me. He had his own card. She didn't just invite him over. She checked him in. She gave him access. This wasn't new. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a one-time thing. I thanked the guy, lied again about finding my wallet in my pocket, and left. The air outside felt thick, like everything I was thinking had weight now. I got in my truck and sat there with both hands on the wheel, staring at the steering column. I couldn't drive. I couldn't go home and pretend everything was normal, not now. But I needed to do something. I couldn't just sit in my truck while my whole life was being rearranged behind my back. So I drove to my brother's place across town. He wasn't home, but I had a key. I let myself in, dropped onto his couch, and tried to figure out what I was going to do next. Emily texted me around 8:15. Where are you? No apology. No explanation. Just those 3 words. I didn't answer. She called 5 minutes later. I let it ring. Then she tried again. This time I picked up. You left without saying anything, she said. Her voice was tight, like she was the one being wronged. What would you have preferred? That I sit down and interview your guest? Ask him if he liked the chocolates on the pillow? Andrew, please. How long? I cut her off before she could start crying or spinning it into something else. There was a pause. 2 months, she said quietly. I leaned back, pressed the phone against my ear, and stared at the ceiling. Was it just him? Another pause. No. That hit harder than the rest. The hotel, the keycard, the suitcase. All of that was bad enough. But knowing there had been more than one, that broke something in me. Why? I asked. I don't know. You don't know? I don't, she repeated. I felt lost. You don't talk to me anymore. We're in the same house, but not really together. And your solution was what? Find someone who's not me. I'm not saying it was right. No, you're not saying anything that matters, I said, standing up and grabbing my jacket. You just wanted something for yourself, and you didn't care what it would cost me. I didn't mean for it to go this far, she said. You packed his suitcase. She didn't respond. I'll be back in the morning. You won't be there when I get home. I hung up and turned my phone off. That night, I didn't sleep. I didn't need to. I wasn't tired. I was wide awake for the first time in months, maybe years. Everything I thought was steady in my life had been taken apart, and the worst part was realizing how blind I'd been to all of it. She hadn't just crossed a line. She erased it and built a new one behind my back. And now I had to decide how to cross it myself. When I got back to the house the next morning, her car was still in the driveway. I parked next to it and sat there for a moment, watching the sun hit the windows of our living room like it was just another normal weekend. Inside that house was every piece of my life before yesterday. My tools, my books, our photos, the couch she picked out and I pretended to like, the walls I painted while she criticized the color for being too safe. Everything in that place was shared, and now every part of it felt like it belonged to someone else. I got out and walked up to the front door with the kind of silence you carry when you're holding back more than one reaction. I wasn't sure what I was going to say, but I knew I wouldn't yell. I'd been quiet long enough that I learned how to talk without losing control. I walked in and found her sitting at the dining table, already dressed, a packed suitcase next to her chair. She looked up when she heard the door close and tried to meet my eyes. I didn't give her the satisfaction. I walked past her into the kitchen, poured a glass of water, and stood there with my back to her for a few seconds before I turned around. You're still here, I said, looking at the bag like I was waiting for it to grow legs. I didn't want to just leave without talking. What's left to say? I asked. You had plenty of time to talk before now. I made mistakes, she said. That's one word for it. I never planned for any of this to happen. You never planned? You gave him a keycard, Emily. You booked a hotel. You brought his clothes. That's not a mistake, it's a routine. That's practice. That's something you've done more than once, and don't even try to tell me you haven't. She shifted in her seat and looked at the table. Her voice dropped low like she was trying to soften the blow with pity. I was unhappy. I walked around the table and sat across from her. So your solution was to keep wearing your ring while you looked for better options on the side? You couldn't come to me and say something first? I tried. No, I said. You didn't try. You distanced yourself. You got quieter. You stopped touching me. You gave up on being honest, but you didn't give up on pretending. That's not trying. That's hiding. That's cowardice. Her face tightened like she wanted to cry, but no tears came. That's the thing about people who cheat. They're always on the edge of emotion when they're finally caught, but the tears aren't for what they did. They're for what they lost. And she knew she lost me the moment I walked into that hotel room and saw her waiting for someone else. I wasn't looking for anyone else at first, she said. But I felt alone in this house, like we were just roommates, and I don't know how I let it happen. I wasn't thinking straight. I leaned forward and stared at her. I did everything I could to keep us together. You stopped trying. I kept showing up. I kept talking. You shut down. So don't sit there and tell me it was both of us. You made this choice every day you snuck around. I'm sorry, she said finally. You're sorry now, I replied. But were you sorry before the keycard? Were you sorry before the hotel? Or are you just sorry because I know? She didn't answer. She didn't have to. I'm not here to fix this, I said. I'm not here to listen to you rationalize why you did what you did. I'm here to make sure you understand what comes next. She nodded slightly, eyes down. I'll go. I already made arrangements. I picked up the suitcase and walked it to the door. She followed, quiet, probably trying to think of something meaningful to say, but that part of the story was already over. I opened the door and stood there, holding it open for her like I would for any stranger walking out of my life. As she stepped outside, she paused. Can I ask you one thing? I nodded. Do you think you'll ever forgive me? I looked her in the eye finally. I don't know, but I know I'll never forget what you did. And right now, that matters more. She left without another word. I stood there watching her drive away until the car turned the corner and disappeared. Then I closed the door, locked it, and sat down at the same table where we used to eat dinner and talk about plans that clearly only I believed in. The thing people don't understand about betrayal is that it's not just emotional. It's not just crying or yelling or throwing a glass across the room. It's logistical. It takes planning. When someone steps outside the marriage, they're not just lying with their mouth. They're lying with their schedule, their phone, their time, their money, their body. Everything gets used against you. That's why I didn't want to just sit in that house and feel sorry for myself. I didn't want to mope around like someone who got beat. I wanted to take back control. Not by yelling. Not by posting about it online. By doing something that would stick. Something real. I didn't want to destroy her publicly. I wasn't interested in embarrassment or making a scene. That stuff fades. People forget. I wanted her to feel what it's like to have someone mess with the life you built, not out of hate, but with a clear mind and a steady hand. I knew exactly where to start. We shared finances. That was her idea, years ago, when she convinced me that joining everything would keep things simple. And I went along with it because I trusted her. That same trust she used to get away with sneaking around for who knows how long. The bank app was still logged in on my phone. So I sat down at my desk, pulled up the accounts, and started moving half of everything into a new private account under my name only. I didn't take more than what was fair, but I made sure it was clean. I canceled her card. I locked the shared savings. I called the bank and froze the joint credit line. I wasn't going to let her book another room with the card I paid off every month. Then I called the insurance company. Her car was under my name. I had co-signed it because she said it would help with her credit. I removed myself completely. If she missed a payment, that was on her. Same with the health insurance. She was still covered under my employer plan. I called HR and told them to cancel her access effective immediately. I didn't know her comfort after what she did. She could get her own. I went further. I logged into the laptop she used. She never changed her passwords. There was an entire folder of receipts, digital confirmations, little clues she probably thought I'd never see. Bookings from the same hotel under different aliases. A couple of emails to Carter with meetup details. One even had a reservation for a couple's massage. I didn't even open it. I just saved every single file, exported them into one folder, zipped it, and labeled it Emily's alternate calendar. I printed a copy, not to send it to her parents or her friends. That would be petty. No, this was for the lawyer. Because I wasn't just getting her out of the house. I was getting her out of everything. When I met with the divorce attorney 2 days later, I was calm. I had a folder, a timeline, and financial records that showed she'd used our shared funds to support her side relationships. The lawyer took one look at the documents and asked if I had gotten a private investigator. I said no. I didn't need one. She handed me a packet of forms, explained the process, and told me I had a good case for not only a clean split, but also possibly keeping the house. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I just signed where I needed to sign and told her to proceed. I didn't tell Emily anything until the papers were served. She was staying with a friend on the other side of town. That friend texted me asking if I was okay, like she didn't know exactly what Emily had done. I didn't respond. I had nothing to say to people who sat quietly while someone else tore my life apart. When the process server showed up at her temporary address, she called me. I let it go to voicemail. Her message was 5 minutes long, full of stuttering, backtracking, asking if we could talk. She said she didn't know I was serious about ending it, that she thought I just needed time to cool off. I didn't listen to the rest. I deleted it. The next day, she showed up at the house while I was fixing a loose step on the porch. She stood there on the sidewalk like she wasn't sure if she should come closer. I kept working. Eventually, she spoke. "You filed," she said. "Yeah. You really want to end it like this?" "You ended it. I'm just making it official. I thought we could maybe work on things. You should have thought about that before the hotel." She stepped closer. "We can talk. We can figure something out." I stood up, wiped my hands on my jeans, and looked her dead in the face. "You didn't want to figure it out when I was coming home to you every night. You wanted options. You wanted to taste a different life. Now you have it. Enjoy it." Her mouth opened like she wanted to argue, but she had nothing. She walked back to her car, sat there for a few minutes, then drove off. That was my revenge. Not screaming. Not breaking things. I didn't need to blow up her world. I just took mine back. A week passed after she came to the house and walked away again. I thought that would be the end of it. I assumed she would take the hint, talk to her lawyer, and we'd continue the process without more interaction. But she didn't. Instead, she kept trying. A message every couple of days. Not aggressive, not begging, just words like, "I've been thinking," or "Can we talk?" I ignored every one of them until Wednesday evening, when she showed up again. This time, she didn't stay outside. She rang the bell and stood there like she had something final to say. I opened the door and didn't move aside to invite her in. She took the hint and stayed on the porch. The sky was getting dark, and the street was quiet. The only sound was her breathing, and even that felt like it was coming from someone I didn't know anymore. "I'm not here to argue," she said. "I'm not going to beg. I just need to say some things." I didn't stop her. I didn't tell her to leave. I didn't nod either. I let her talk. I've been trying to understand why I let all of this happen. Why I kept lying even when I had chances to be honest. I've been going over everything in my head, and I keep landing on the same thing. I felt invisible. I felt like I was disappearing inside our life. And that doesn't excuse what I did, but it's the only reason I have that makes any sense to me. I crossed my arms and leaned against the doorframe. I waited a second, then answered. "You weren't invisible. You were just bored. You got restless, and you thought there might be something more exciting waiting out there. You didn't feel invisible when you used our money to rent hotel rooms. You didn't feel invisible when you helped someone else out of his shirt. You felt powerful, and now you feel scared." She looked down, then back up. "You think I'm scared? I think you lost the person who would have done anything for you, and now you're realizing what that actually means. I didn't want to lose you. You lost me the second you looked at another man like he was your partner. You just didn't know it yet." I kept thinking about the life we had before everything got so routine, she said. Before we stopped going places, before we got tired every night and just watched TV. That wasn't routine. That was real life. People grow up. They settle into work, responsibility, bills. They choose someone and they build. You want spontaneous? You want electric? That's not a marriage. That's a fantasy. She stepped closer, but I didn't move. "Do you hate me?" I shook my head slowly. "No, I don't hate you. I don't even want to. But I can't trust you. And once that's gone, nothing else works." Her voice cracked a little when she spoke next. "I keep thinking about all the little things I took for granted. The way you made my coffee every morning, even when we weren't speaking. How you checked the doors at night. How you always made sure I had gas in my car before a long drive. I did those things because I loved you. Not because I was perfect. Not because I expected anything back. But I can't keep doing them for someone who used that love to cover her own lies. I thought I could fix this. You can't fix it. You can only accept it." "So what happens now?" she asked. "We move on. You finish signing what you need to sign. You stop showing up here. And I figure out what my life looks like without someone who spent the last year pretending." She stood there for a long time, quiet, like she was trying to decide whether to say something else or not. Eventually, she reached into her purse and pulled out a folded envelope. "This is my response to the divorce filing. It's signed. I agree to everything." I took it from her hand, looked down at it, then back at her. "I won't bother you again," she added. "I know I lost the right." "You did." She took a step back, then paused. "I hope you find someone who appreciates the way you are. The things you do." "I didn't. That's on me." "I already found him," I said. "I'm standing right here." She didn't reply. She just nodded once, then walked back to her car. I closed the door and set the envelope on the table. The silence that followed wasn't heavy. It wasn't uncomfortable. It was the kind of quiet that lets you breathe again after holding it in for too long. I poured myself a glass of water, sat down, and felt something I hadn't felt in months. Stillness. Not peace yet, but something close. The divorce was finalized exactly 7 weeks after I handed the signed envelope to my lawyer. There were no delays, no additional arguments, no last-minute bargaining. She didn't contest anything. I think she knew there was no use fighting for something she'd already broken herself. The house became mine, the accounts were split, and all ties between us were officially cut. I didn't throw a party or call anyone to celebrate. There was no moment where I sat back and smiled like I had won something. It didn't feel like a win. It felt like closing the door on a house you built with your own hands, only to watch someone else set fire to the inside before walking out. All that was left was the frame, and I had to decide if I was going to rebuild or just walk away and start over somewhere new. The first thing I did was change the locks. Not because I thought she'd try to come back, but because it felt right to make sure that part of my life had no way back in. I took down the framed wedding photo from the hallway and put it in a box, along with the others. There weren't many pictures of us to begin with, not ones that didn't feel like lies now. I packed away everything that reminded me of her. Clothes, notes, trinkets from vacations, the mugs we got on our 5th anniversary. All of it went into the garage, and eventually, I donated it. I didn't need a bonfire or some dramatic moment of closure. I just needed space. I started going out more. Not bars, not clubs, just places I used to avoid because she didn't like them. small diners, hardware stores, even weekend flea markets. I didn't go looking to meet anyone. I just went to feel normal again, to remember what it was like to have time that belonged only to me. My phone stayed quiet. Most people didn't know what had happened. I kept it that way on purpose. I wasn't interested in sympathy or advice. People always want to say things like, "You'll find someone else," or "Everything happens for a reason," but none of that matters when you're the one sitting at the kitchen table eating alone every night. The only thing that helps is routine. Waking up, making your bed, going to work, paying your bills, and trying not to think about how easily someone you trusted can become a stranger. 3 weeks after the final paperwork was filed, I got a letter in the mail. No return address, just my name and a stamp. Inside was a short note, written in her handwriting. It wasn't dramatic. No pleas, no begging to try again. Just a few lines saying she hoped I was okay, that she was sorry for everything, and that she didn't expect forgiveness but wanted me to know she meant what she said on the porch. I didn't reply. I read it once, folded it back up, and tossed it into the shredder. Not out of anger. Out of necessity. I had nothing left to say, and nothing I needed to hear from her anymore. What I learned through all of this wasn't something deep or profound. There was no hidden meaning waiting to be discovered in the mess she left behind. What I learned was simple. People will do what they want, no matter how much you give them. You can be loyal, consistent, honest, and they'll still choose something else if they think it'll make them feel better for a little while. That's not your failure. That's theirs. And when they finally realize what they lost, they'll come back, not to fix it, but to ease their own guilt. Your job isn't to make them feel better. It's to protect what's left of yourself and rebuild without them. I'm not angry anymore. I'm not bitter. I'm tired, sure. But it's the kind of tired that comes after hard work, not helplessness. I sleep better now. I eat when I'm hungry, not when the silence gets to me. I stopped looking at other people's lives and comparing them to mine. I stopped checking her social media. I stopped wondering who she's with now. It doesn't matter. That chapter is over. Not because I closed it, but because it was already finished the day she chose someone else and thought I wouldn't find out. The future looks different now. Not worse, not better. Just mine. That's the part one hold on to. I'm not rebuilding for someone else. I'm not trying to prove I'm worth loving. I already know I am. I was loyal. I stayed when things got hard. I kept the promises she broke. And now I get to move forward without carrying her weight on my back. She took what we had and traded it for something cheap. I took what was left and turned it into peace. That's how it ends. Quietly. Honestly. On my own terms. And that's enough.